The professional track and field season is officially over for 2024, and as far as I can tell, nothing will ever be the same again going forward. Outside of the Olympics, the Diamond League Final had to be the biggest event on the calendar. And it was alright, I guess, but all of the top athletes didn't actually show up. And one of them who actually did, technically wasn't even allowed to compete in the final. But that's the topic that I've already shared my thoughts on, so there's no need to go back on it now. The fact that the Diamond League couldn't get basically all of the world's best athletes to show up and compete in their final is nothing new. Usain Bolt himself only has one Diamond League championship on his resume. If you know how good he was, the only way that happens is if he wasn't showing up to compete in the first place. And apparently Olympic legend Michael Johnson has had enough of it, which is why he is launching the Grand Slam Track League to kick off next year. I honestly came into this week with no intentions of making this video, but then I saw something that I could not unsee, because the world's fastest man Noah Lyles did another interview, and I say it that way because I saw him do one with Jimmy Fallon, and another one live with Kelly Clarkson, and he even went on the Nightcap podcast with Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson. But this one was with ESPN themselves. I'm not gonna bore you with the details because you can watch it for yourself, but they asked him, how do you feel about Michael Johnson's Grand Slam Track League? And what he told them was this, that he supports the league and everything they're trying to do for the athletes, but the reason why he has not signed on as a racer yet is because he is waiting to see a television deal get locked in, apparently one that he approves of. There are so many places I could go with that statement, but I'm gonna choose to focus on this. Whether we like it or not, Noah Lyles is at the top of the food chain because he is the Olympic gold medalist in the 100-meter dash, and everybody knows that is the most popular event in track and field, specifically to the casual track fan. And when you decide to sell a professional track and field product, the casual fan is who you got to appeal to. If you add to that his sprint triple from the World Championships in 2023, you cannot have a track league and try to tell people that the fastest people in the world are going to be there if he is not on the starting line. Up until now, I haven't shared most of my thoughts about the Grand Slam Track League. But now that we have an idea of at least some of the athletes who are going to be competing in it, and Noah Lyles is putting his thoughts out there as to why he's not on that list. And even Michael Johnson himself has done more than enough interviews to tell us about it, including one recently with my friend Anderson Emerald of The Final Leg as well as Sidious Magazine. I figured that now is as good a time as any to bring my voice to the conversation. So I apologize in advance because this video is a little bit different, because I actually care about the sport at every single level, including the professional one. And I know that I'm not alone in this, in recognizing that professional track and field for the most part is pretty trash. And the reason why that bothers me so much is because we know people like to watch track and field. It's why it's so popular during the Olympics. You just gotta package it in a way that they understand it. I'm gonna try to be on my best behavior, but I am aware that something I might say is likely going to upset some people, and I'm willing to accept the consequences. So let's have a very real conversation, a brutally honest one, about Michael Johnson's Grand Slam Track League, because pro track and field is in need of help. In fact, that's probably an understatement. In America, the sport has been in a state of crisis for a while now, and most people assume that it just has to be like this, because maybe track is just not that popular. But I refuse to believe that, so I want the Grand Slam to work. Perhaps more than most people, but the only way that's actually going to happen is if they can fix the problems that have been plaguing the sport for a very long time now, and that doesn't happen overnight. The only way that I know how to break this down is for me to go through just about everything we know about the league up until this point, and then compare it to just about all the problems that we know pro track and field has to overcome. Noah Lyles said that he's not going to join till he sees a quality television deal in place. I'm going to address that, but not right now. I'm going to deal with one of the issues that brings up in the first place. Professional sports is entertainment. That means the only way for it to work is you have to give the people what they want. That is based on the assumption that you know exactly what that is. I did watch the initial press conference with Sidious Magazine that officially announced the league to the world, and they made it very clear that the focus of the league is to create a product that is engaging to the fans, trying to tell stories about the athletes as well as focusing on the rivalries within the sport between the fastest athletes we have on the track. Oh yeah, they also made it clear they ain't no field events. My apologies to that whole community, but hey, I'm not the one making the decisions. The vision for the league is to host 4 Grand Slam competitions during the season that will pay out more prize money than any athlete is able to get currently on the Diamond League or anywhere else. And the athletes in those events will include 4 racers who are currently under contract with Grand Slam. That means they are guaranteed to get paid beyond whatever their winnings actually are, but they will still invite challengers to compete in each event. Those athletes aren't under contract. Simply put, the goal is to get the fastest athletes in the world on the track and to get them competing against each other multiple times during the year, where we as fans know exactly who's going to show up and who's going to show out. It comes with a path for every competitive athlete in the world to earn their way onto the starting line. And beyond that, the plan is still to pay people more to compete in track and field than they've ever gotten anywhere else. All of that sounds pretty good to me, although it's going to cost a lot of money, because there is a reason why track and field athletes have been able to make that much money in the past. The Diamond League only pays out $10,000 for winning a standard event. The only time they pay more than that is during the Diamond League final. The appearance fees for the top athletes, I'm aware, is way more than that, but that's only for the top athletes. In general, track and field is just not a lucrative sport. There are a bunch of interviews with a whole bunch of athletes, both present and past, like Walter Dix is the one that's coming to mind right now. They all say the same thing: the few athletes who can rise to the top of that system, like a Noah Lyles, they can make very real money. Maybe not NBA money, but still very real money. And in the current model, those same athletes don't have much of an incentive to go out there and compete, considering you're barely paying them to do it anyway. The only time they have to run once they've earned their rep. Once again, like a Noah Lyles, they can basically run in whatever meets they want, regardless of the prize money, because their reputation is tied to what they do at the World Championships to a lesser degree, but really at the Olympics anyway. Their endorsements really don't care at all what they do in the Diamond League, as long as they still end the year as the best in the world, a title that the Diamond League can't really give you. But that right there is the biggest problem that Grand Slam track is going to face. Remember, I said people love to watch track and field, specifically at the Olympics. And there is a very real reason why, because they know exactly what they're watching and why those races matter. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. But you become a successful professional sport, specifically in the American market, when you can convince people that winning in that league is more important than the Olympics. Every NBA player really believes that winning an NBA championship is way more important for their legacy than winning an Olympic gold medal. That's why some of them simply blow it off if they're asked to join the team, specifically for Team USA. But what the players think doesn't matter anywhere near as much as what the fans think. And in America, basketball fans think that the NBA Finals is more important than the Olympics as well. Even if you ask tennis fans, they don't look at the Olympics as the pinnacle of the sport. They do focus on the Grand Slams, which is where the title for this league came from. Just about any professional sport you could mention. Baseball, American football, soccer, or even boxing. People do not consider the Olympics as the pinnacle of the sport. Football is kind of an exception because almost nobody else plays it. The only way that I really believe Grand Slam track is going to work, when I say work, I mean become everything that this sport actually needs at the professional level. You have to convince fans that winning a Grand Slam means way more than the Olympics. Paying the athletes a whole bunch of money is part of that. But if at any moment, we as fans don't believe that the best athletes in the world are showing up, to the point where nobody would ever choose not to show up if they could, it's going to take away from how we view those performances. So when Noah Lyles makes it clear that he's at the very least skeptical of joining the league, he is not just one man, he is perhaps the most important man, who they need to sign before this league launches. In the men's sprinting events, Fred Curley and Kenny Bednarik are already signed to Grand Slam. In the distance events, Yared Nuguse, Josh Kerr, and Cole Hocker are all signed as well. On the women's side, they've now signed Melissa Jefferson, and only one more woman. But as far as I'm concerned, she's the most important woman, and the best track and field athlete that we have in the world right now. Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni. So far, Michael Johnson appears to be killing it with getting the top talent in the world to sign on. But if the two biggest names in American sprinting, Noah Lyles on the men's side and Sha'Carri Richardson on the women's side, don't sign on for the league, the rest of it ain't gonna matter that much. The Olympics have held on to their status as the pinnacle of the sport based on how the public understands that event. It comes around once every 4 years. And for the friends who I have outside the track community, friends who are still into sports, as far as they're concerned, athletes are training all 4 years to show up for that one moment. Never mind the fact that pro track and field is actually a thing, that we actually have world championships more often than not when it is in an Olympics year. They are not paying attention during those moments, and in their defense, we really don't know if all the top athletes are going to show up in any of those other events, including a Diamond League final apparently. But we do know that on the Olympic zone, everybody's going to come with their best. And if they don't, well, that's going to affect your legacy. Shericka Jackson of Jamaica unfortunately had to pay that price this year because she has been the best women's sprinter and hands down the best 200-meter runner we've seen on the women's side. For the last 3 years, from the last Olympics up until now, the only problem was, in the last Olympics, and now in this one where she was hurt, she didn't show it to the world. Though the track community, the ones who are actually paying attention, we know how good she is. The problem is, the casual fans don't know. It's the same way that when Noah Lyles lost the 200-meter dash at this Olympics. Casual fans don't know. He never loses a 200-meter dash, much less comes off of a turn in anything less than first. Congratulations to Boho on getting the victory. But it was shocking to watch Noah Lyles not perform at his best, because that was not his best in that race. But that one race is what's going to go down in history, because there's nothing else he can do between now and the next Olympics to atone for it. But maybe Grand Slam track could be that moment, specifically if it's done right. The only way that Grand Slam can become everything that we need it to be. Every track athlete in the world has to want to be in that league. And once they're there, they have to be fighting it out to win because it has to matter that much. I would argue that winning the Grand Slam track league needs to be harder than winning an Olympic gold medal. How you choose to accomplish that is a whole nother conversation. But winning an Olympic gold medal in basketball really only requires winning 6 games at the right moment. But winning the NBA Finals means you gotta go to an 82-game schedule on top of the playoffs with a bunch of rounds in order to get that trophy. Track and field is a different sport, I get that. But when you call yourself a champion in the Grand Slam Track League, everybody needs to know that you are really the best. I admit that Noah Lyles is right on this part, that none of this is really gonna matter without a quality way for fans to watch it. But television deals right now are not anything like what they used to be, because linear television is basically dead. Live sports is the only thing that's really keeping that afloat. Okay, fine, live events like the Oscars. But there is a reason why Amazon is now making deals to televise the NFL, as well as the NBA. What's more important than who the deal is with is what product are we giving them once that deal gets signed. Because in the past, track and field is a whole bunch of waiting around to watch people run, and then they actually go do it, and then we're waiting around again. I understand that the anticipation before a race is part of the experience. But simply put, we've got to find a way to keep the action on the track, because that's what's going to keep people engaged. And remember, whatever action they're watching has to make sense to them. When I attended the Tom Jones Memorial Meet in Florida earlier this year, they called it an Olympics development meet, and they were not lying. I got to watch Noah Lyles, as well as Kenny Bednarik, as well as Masai Russell, and many other Olympic medalists on that track. They didn't charge me admission, and the event was barely televised, if you can even call it that. At that event, most of the world's best athletes were out there competing, but almost nobody noticed from the casual track and field community. They didn't even know what was happening. And honestly, I don't believe they cared that much, because it wasn't just about getting the fast athletes together to compete. It was about them competing for something that actually matters. That is the problem with pro track and field right now. we don't know what all these races actually mean. The Diamond League final kind of makes sense, they just don't get everybody to show up to compete in it. Grand Slam might be able to fix all that, and get the athletes paid when they do it. But the one thing that I know for certain is that no professional sports league is ever going to be commercially successful if you can't get the best athletes to take that league seriously. And anytime that something is new, it is natural for people to be skeptical. But pro track and field is in a state of crisis. I think we can all agree on that. Yet I don't just want Grand Slam track to work. I believe track and field needs it to work. If it doesn't, then Noah Lyles likely won't be running another race that actually matters for his legacy until the Los Angeles Olympic Games. Nobody wins in track and field without putting in the work, because any real track star has to prove it, both on the track and in the weight room. With the I trained hard for this shirt, you can let everyone know that your success is not an accident. Get yours at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.